Welcome back, everyone. I am Psycho Emerald. Today I'm back with another The Vintage Collection figure review. Today I'm doing an overview of the Specialty Prequels Vintage Collection re-release wave. This is a wave that I've had my eye on for quite a while. I know I've owned it for a little while as well. Mostly I had my eye on it because of this Ahsoka figure is really cool, and it was really hard to get for a while, and so having a re-release of it was definitely a good idea and something that definitely caught my attention. But I'm also a big prequel trilogy guy, so having these three figures come out in this wave as well definitely had me interested. And yeah, these figures, since they are re-releases, they are a little bit dated in some ways. I still think in most ways they're still very good, and I would like to talk about what I really like about these figures. And maybe some of the things that I don't like as much. And I know these figures have been out for a while, so a lot of people have already kind of shared their thoughts on them, but that didn't stop me from wanting to do the same thing. I felt compelled to make a video about these, so I thought I'd get my thoughts out there on them. So yeah, I'm going to be doing this in alphabetical order, so I will be starting with Ahsoka. But before we do that, if you like Star Wars The Vintage Collection action figure reviews, I do quite a bit of that on my channel. I also do Black Series, I do Marvel Legends and different things like that. My channel is mainly focused on action figure collecting and toy collecting in general, so if that's something you're interested in, please consider subscribing in order to join the Knights of Mischief. So yeah, let's get into talking about this wave of vintage collection figures, starting with Ahsoka. Alright, so there we have Ahsoka and all four of her accessories, but first let's take a look at the details on the figure. Here's the Ahsoka figure nice and up close, so we have all the details on the outfit. We have the head sculpt first, which you might notice the paint does look a little bit sloppy. I believe that is photoreal application on the face. It does look a little sloppy, but I think overall the sculpt is definitely there, and it definitely looks a lot better than the original release of the figure. The outfit looks really cool, got a lot of texture sculpted into it, make it look realistic. We got the bands around her arms. The orange skin tone definitely looks consistent throughout, which is nice. We got laces and stitch marks on the gauntlets as well. And down here we've got her belt. Looks to have a little bit of a paint mishap. It shows up a lot more in the harsh light, but really doesn't show up that much normally. And all the paint app details on the belt look really nice as well, but once again, doesn't look totally spot on there. You can see it's missing some paint on that side. There's a little too much on that side, so that's a little bit annoying. We have the clips here for the lightsabers to go on are painted in silver. More paint app details that carry over to the back, even on the back of these straps on her arms, which is really cool. The head sculpt has lots of good paint app detail with the blue and the gold, which I believe was more of a dark green, but in the light it almost looks more like a gold. Then we have the pants as well, which have really nice detail on the boots with kind of weathering, and then of course a little metallic paint on them. And then we got these kind of polygon shapes on the side of the black pants. I don't know if that's like cuts in the fabric that kind of show her skin through, or if that's like a pattern on the side of the pants. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, overall, really nice figure as far as the looks go. But if we want to talk about the articulation, that's where, in my opinion, this figure kind of starts to fall apart. You look at the head's got good tilt on it. Can't really move forward and back, but that's kind of to be expected with an Ahsoka figure. But you can do a little bit there and a little bit there, but not really that much. The arms are pretty well articulated. The arms definitely aren't the problem. There's even a gauntlet swivel here, which is really cool. Just no wrist articulation, which is very disappointing. Just a swivel at the waist, unfortunately. No ball joint or ab crunch or anything like that, which is pretty unfortunate. There's also just swivel joints for the legs that just go forward and back. The knee joints they're there, but they're not really that good. They're a little flimsy feeling, and then no rocker ankles, and the joints here are very restricted by the boot as well. So yeah, articulation really is not great on this one, but it's somewhat serviceable. But yeah, let's move on to talking about the accessories. So to start here, we have the two lightsabers. We have the shorter Shoto blade, which is kind of the defense blade, which is very nice. And then we have the regular lightsaber here. These are just the hilts. They're very nicely painted in silver with a little bit of black there. And they will fit on Ahsoka's belt, which is really cool. So if we want to do that, there's the first one there. I don't know if I'm putting these in the right way. I'm sure some Clone Wars nerds can let me know that I'm putting them on the wrong sides, but I don't really care. All right, so there's the second one as well. So we can kind of tilt that a little bit, and then you've got both of her lightsabers hanging from her belt, which is pretty cool. Could probably do a little bit of an arm crossing pose as well. Not perfect, but I'm sure I could figure something out if I had more time. But yeah, there's Ahsoka with her lightsabers. on her belt. Now let's check out the ignited lightsabers. So here we have the ignited lightsabers. Here's the regular lightsaber. Same good paint apps on the hilt right there, except the black does look to be a little bit crooked on this one, so that's a little bit of a QC issue, but it's very minor. Then you can notice this one has a more yellowish blade, just like it did in the show, which is really cool. And you can put these in her hands, but I did notice that the grip was somewhat loose mostly on this hand, but it's mainly just when you want to have it backwards, which is how Ahsoka holds her lightsaber. So it's pretty unfortunate that they didn't really sculpt the hands well enough to hold the lightsaber backwards. Like, that's just gonna fall out of there. Works a lot better in this hand for sure, but yeah, if you want to have a lightsaber being held backwards in this hand, definitely not going to be super easy to do, but I managed to figure it out, and that's how she's been displayed for a while, is pose something like what I'm going for right here. But it's very difficult to get the lightsaber that she's holding backwards in this hand to stay there. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind, is that this hand definitely doesn't like to hold the lightsabers backwards like she holds them. But overall, the lightsabers are a very cool addition, and I especially like the attention to detail to make the blade color different and to move the dog hair off of the studio there. So yeah, pretty nice figure. Really enjoy the accessories. Let me give you guys a closer look at Ahsoka from the Clone Wars. So yeah, overall, really fun Ahsoka figure. Definitely a little outdated though. Could probably use an update, but I'm perfectly fine with this. But I am really excited about the new Black Series figure that's coming out soon, because that looks incredible. But yeah, let's move on to the next one, which is Anakin Skywalker from The Phantom Menace. Alright, so there's young Anakin Skywalker from The Phantom Menace with all of his accessories. This guy comes with a lot of fun accessories that, of course, he didn't use in the movies, but it makes it fun to have kind of a youngling figure in the collection. But first, let's take a look at the figure itself. Alright, so here's little Annie. First, the head sculpt. I don't think it looks 100% like Jake Lloyd, and I think the hair, it should be a lot lighter. He definitely had more of a dirty blonde hair than this very dark brown that they went with. I like the little Padawan braid here though, and the little ponytail in the back. I think the paint apps are very cleanly applied on the face as well. I think it looks very nice. The sculpt to the actual tunic is really, really cool as well. The belt has lots of nice paint apps on it. Got a little area for a lightsaber there if you wish to put one of the youngling sabers on his belt. We got the trousers down here, which are very well sculpted, and the boots down here, which are the nice reddish brown color that we see on a lot of Jedi. And overall, I just love this little figure. He's probably my favorite out of the wave. Spoiler alert, I guess. But it's just like a perfect little tiny Anakin figure. Just like a little miniature Jedi, and it's just so adorable and so much fun to have on the shelf, especially next to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. Yeah, just really love the look of this figure and really love the proportions and the sculpt and everything. But yeah, if we want to talk about articulation, it's pretty good from what I remember. Not really any tilt, but he has some look up and down. And the arms lift up. We got a good bend here, I believe, with a swivel, which is good. Does he have wrist articulation? I can't remember. Yeah, but it's just a swivel, it looks like. Just got a swivel at the waist once again. We got some fabric right here for the lower tunic. We got bend and swivel at the knee. No rockers, but we do have hinges at the feet as well. Articulation isn't super great, not a ton of range, but for what I really love with displaying this figure, which is just having him standing there on the shelf, it's pretty much perfect, and I really don't need too dynamic articulation. But yeah, as you can see, legs don't bend super far. No rocker ankles, of course. The arms don't bend extremely far either, but it's all serviceable in my opinion. So I think you could do some fun poses with him if you really wanted to. So yeah, now let's talk about the accessories. So first, as far as accessories go, here we have the little Jedi youngling helmet, which we never see Anakin use, but we do see in Attack of the Clones. So if you want to put that on his head, you can do it just like that, and then you can kind of cover his face so that you can't really tell that it's Anakin, and it could be just any Jedi youngling Padawan. So then we have the training droid, which we see them use in Attack of the Clones, but most notably it first showed up in the original Star Wars. But it comes with this little flight stand, which is really weird because it looks like it's jumping or something. I don't know why they did it like that, but it's still a cool accessory to have. And if you really want to, you can definitely detach it from the flight stand there. So you don't have to keep it attached to the goofy little like jumping thing. And then the lightsabers. First we have the ignited one here. Really cool little detail, very accurate to the youngling sabers. I feel like The youngling sabers, from what I remember, were kind of a very matte color, so it's a little bit weird for them to be this metallic, but as far as the actual sculpt, it looks really, really cool, and I like it better being metallic, but it doesn't really convey that same feeling of the kind of cheaper, less lethal sabers for the younglings. But here we have the unignited one that can go on his belt if you wish. You can put it here. There you have that. So then you have Anakin with a lightsaber on his belt, which is kind of fun, but we didn't really see him with a lightsaber in The Phantom Menace as far as I remember. So yeah, I just love having this figure displayed standing on the shelf. Let me get him into a little pose and I will show you guys a little closer up and down look at Anakin from The Phantom Menace. So overall, yeah, I really like this figure. It's probably my favorite out of the wave. I just absolutely love Phantom Menace. I absolutely love Jake Lloyd as a young Anakin Skywalker, and this figure is just pretty much everything I want. I think the hair color could be a little better, but other than that, it's pretty much exactly what I want for a young Anakin representation in my collection. Hopefully we get something like this in the Black Series someday, but for right now, I'm very happy with this in the Vintage Collection. So yeah, let's move on to the third figure in the wave, which is Mace Windu from Attack of the Clones. Alright, so there we have the coolest Jedi in the galaxy with all of his accessories, so let's check out the figure itself first. So he has a really nice head sculpt. I would say it doesn't really look that much like Samuel L. Jackson. I think it definitely has a little bit of the resemblance there, but I don't think it's quite spot on. Overall, I do think it's pretty nice though, and it does look like a real person. It's a very detailed head sculpt, which I really, really like. He's got a nice expression on his face as well. He's got dark eyes. Very cool Mace Windu head sculpt. The tunic itself, it's very simple. It does look and feel a little bit plasticky, so it's not super realistic looking, but I still think this looks really cool overall. And we have the belt here with nice silver paint apps and sculpt and little pouches and stuff across. Of course, we have the place for the lightsaber hilt there. Then we have the pouch there as well. Little white collar piece there. The brown boots with the white trousers. Fabric piece right here for the skirt piece. I think the proportions are pretty nice as well. The legs are spread out a little bit awkwardly, and when we get to articulation, we can kind of see why. But overall, I think the figure looks really nice. But if we do want to talk about articulation now, the head cannot tilt, but it can look up and can't really look down. It can lift up and we can bend there, but as you can see, it's very unsightly the way that the elbows bend. It kind of makes a cut in the elbow, which is unfortunate, but we can swivel there, which is always good for getting the two-handed lightsaber poses, which, wow, that's better than a lot of older Black Series figures, so that's pretty nice. And we get a swivel and actually a ball joint at the hips for this one, which is the first one out of the wave so far to have a ball joint, which is great for getting dynamic poses. And then down here, we can look at the legs. They are sculpted in a way that they're kind of spread apart, which looks a little bit odd and makes it a little bit more difficult to stand him up. But you can't move them inwards because they're just swivel joints. They're not ball jointed, so there's no way to fix that. But overall, articulation is actually pretty good on this guy, even if it does look a little bit ugly on the elbows. The elbows do bend nicely. And overall, I've been able to get some pretty fun poses out of this guy, and he looks good on the shelf, so I am really liking this Mace Windu figure. But yeah, let's check out the accessories. Starting with his cloak, nice fabric cloak. It's kind of this orangish brown color, and we can put that on him. You can put the cloak on him if you want, more of a Jedi Temple look or more of a Revenge of the Sith Mace Windu look. You can put the cloak on him. The problem is the hood doesn't really like to stay down, which the nice thing about the Black Series one is that it does. The hood does stay down, but this one you definitely have to do some fiddling with to get the hood to stay down. But I do think the material feels very high quality, which is nice. But for me, I've been displaying him without the cloak because it allows for more range of motion. It's a little bit more difficult to get those two-handed poses once you have the cloak on because it kind of hinders the elbows. So I've been displaying him without the cloak so I can get some better poses out of him. And speaking of the lightsaber, we can look at the lightsaber accessories now. Here we have the unlit hilt, which has super nice paint apps, very clean. And we have the gold and the black and the silver and just Mace Windu's iconic electrum-plated lightsaber. It's just awesome. I think they absolutely nailed the sculpt on this. It might not be completely to scale, but I'm glad that it's not, so they can get the details that are necessary here. And you could pop that one right onto his belt right there, looking really, really cool. But if we want to take that off, we have the lit lightsaber hilt here. Same really nice cleanly applied paint. It is a little bit scratched from it going in his hands, but that's bound to happen. And then we have the purple blade here, which almost looks blue on camera, but I guarantee you it is purple. It's a very deep purple color. It's not pink or anything, but it is a little bit more of a bluish purple, so that's kind of why it looks like that. But if I put it against my hand, you can see it is a violet color. So, and you can toss that in his hands and do a fun pose. So let me get in.
Ironic.
So let me get him into a cool pose, and I'll give you guys a closer look at Mace Windu. So overall, I think this is a really great 3 3/4 inch Mace Windu figure. If you're looking for a good one, definitely grab this one. I think it's probably your best bet. The photoreal likeness on the head sculpt, even if it isn't 100% spot on, in my opinion. The lightsabers are super nice, and the overall sculpt is pretty good as well, and he has pretty decent articulation. Really good Mace Windu figure, one of my favorite Jedi, so I'm really glad to have a 3.75 inch figure of him in my collection. So that's going to do it for him. Let's move on to the final figure in the wave, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi from Attack of the Clones. Alright, so there we have Obi-Wan Kenobi from Attack of the Clones, and unintentionally he's kind of in a walking pose. That was just the only way I could get him to stand up, but yeah, let's take a look at the figure. And it's a good thing I was mentioning proportions a lot with the other figures, because I think that's where this one really falls flat. His arms are really long, his upper torso is really small, and his legs are fairly long as well. I just think it looks super awkward and doesn't really look quite right. I think his head looks too small. Yeah, so this is one that I definitely display with the cloak on a lot more, not to mention the fact that I feel like I'm going to get blinded because these robes are extremely bright. They're extremely white, and it almost makes him look like a certain person some of you might be familiar with. But yeah, I don't really like the color of the robes here. He definitely had robes that were a little closer to tan rather than almost white. This doesn't look quite white, if you will. They were definitely, this is kind of what they looked like in Phantom Menace. I can definitely see that, but not for Attack of the Clones. They were definitely different. So yeah, but if we want to look at the head sculpt, I think it looks good. I think it's definitely got a little bit of a Ewan likeness in there. The hair color is a little bit too far on the red side. I feel like it's for some reason really hard for them to do blonde hair. Luckily the Black Series one, they got it right. The belt, if we go down here, the paint apps on the belt are a little bit off on the belt buckle there, but otherwise they look pretty nice. Lots of good pouches and stuff, as we usually see with Jedi figures. Little paint mishap there, a little bit of the hair paint ended up on the shoulder. And the sculpt overall is actually pretty good. I think the details in the tunic look really nice, even if the proportions are pretty off. We got nice weathering and a nice wash over the boots that makes them look nice, but the legs are like permanently stuck, like going inwards like this, but we do have a fabric skirt piece, which is nice. But yeah, the articulation, I guess we can talk about now. He does have some tilt, which is good for a little bit of Obi-Wan Kenobi attitude. Arms can lift up and bend. They can lift up really far, which is nice. And the elbow bend comes in pretty far as well. Got a ball joint at the waist, which is great. No ball joints at the legs, unfortunately, just forward and back, which makes it impossible to get rid of this issue where the feet are that close together. So you have to come up with some sort of pose where they're moved outwards from each other in order to make sure that he actually has enough space between his feet to keep his balance. I think the color of the boots is really nice, but other than that, the colors are really off and look much closer to what he looked like in Phantom Menace rather than Attack of the Clones. So that's kind of unfortunate. But head sculpt is really nice. Articulation is definitely the best out of any of the figures in this wave, in my opinion. It makes him able to do some pretty cool poses. So yeah, let's check out his accessories now. So to start with, we have his cloak, which is this dark brown color, which I feel like it should be a little more reddish brown. It was only really dark brown when he was kind of soaked by the rain and then the lighting of that one certain scene with the fight on Kamino between him and Jango Fett. It wasn't really usually this dark. Like, it's almost like we could switch these. So like, this is Mace's and this is Obi's. It's almost like they got them wrong and we should switch them because that's more accurate to what their cloak colors were in the movie. But yeah, we can try to put this on Obi-Wan here. Just got to thread his arms through there a little bit. and then move that down, and you've got that. Put the hood over if you want your figures to look terrible, because hoods on fabric cloaks never look right, unfortunately. But yeah, it does help to hide some of those odd, wonky looking proportions and colors on the outfit. So, and this is how I choose to display them. And then if we look at the lightsaber next. This is one of my favorite hilt designs in all of Star Wars. I think all the prequel hilts are really, really cool. And this was one of my favorites when I was a little kid. I absolutely loved Obi-Wan's saber from Phantom Menace, and of course Attack of the Clones as well. My brother and I think it's funny that they chose to use the same saber for Attack of the Clones when they could have just already switched it to the one that he had in The New Hope. But they decided to hold that off till Revenge of the Sith for some reason. But that's okay with me, because I do like this hilt design, like I said. And
we lost something.
Oh, fudge. I keep doing this. Oh, shit. I broke it. Okay, so I straight up broke the figure on camera. I pushed it a little too hard, and I wasn't paying attention to it since it had the cloak over it, so I wasn't able to see I was stressing the joint. And yeah, it snapped off, so I'm gonna have to super glue that, unfortunately. Hopefully I can super glue it in a way that it'll still be able to articulate a bit, but if not, oh well, that's fine, because I don't pose this guy very often anyway. But yeah, that kind of sucks. For now, I guess I can show you guys that the lightsaber fits pretty nicely in his hand, and I can carefully bend that joint. Can do fun stuff with it. And if this arm was still attached, he's looking like Anakin now from the end of the Attack of the Clones. You could pretty well get some good poses out of it if you know how to position the arm. Something like this, which is pretty cool. So yeah, let me get him into a cool pose, and we'll give you guys a closer look at Obi-Wan from Attack of the Clones. Okay, so yeah, overall, it's a pretty nice Obi-Wan figure. I do think the color is very off and the proportions are a little bit off. And of course, it has the weird leg issue where they're both pointing too far inwards. But overall, it's a nice Obi-Wan figure if you manage to keep his arm attached to him, especially. And yeah, I'm going to have to go super glue this thing very soon. But yeah, anyway, that's going to be everything from the wave. So I will get them all out here and I'll give you guys my final thoughts. All right, so overall, this wave, the figures are a little bit dated, but I still really enjoy all of them because I love all these characters, and I think these are very good looking representations of those characters. My favorite is Little Anakin, just because I love the novelty of having a figure that small and having that version of the Anakin Skywalker character. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of figures aren't superposable. You know, Obi-Wan doesn't have great proportions and stuff like that. But overall, I think they're definitely still worth it now, especially since they're pretty easy to find. Like, I got the whole set for $40, which is like 10 bucks a figure. So it was definitely worth it, in my opinion, to get all of these. Also, if you want to look at the card backs real quick, here's the Ahsoka card back, which has this really cool artwork on it, Star Wars Clone Wars. We have the Anakin Skywalker card back, with the little Jake Lloyd Anakin from the end of the film right there, Star Wars The Phantom Menace. We have the Mace Windu one right there with a shot from Attack of the Clones where he's advancing on Jango Fett, ready to kill him. And we have Attack of the Clones up there. And then we have another Attack of the Clones card back with Obi-Wan Kenobi, him on Geonosis in his Starfighter. So yeah, pretty cool card backs as well. So yeah, I really enjoy this wave overall, and I definitely recommend it to any prequel era fans because I think it's a really fun wave of figures. So I'm gonna go fix Obi-Wan's arm now, but once again, if you guys really enjoy Star Wars figure reviews, I do a lot of that on my channel, or if you just like toy collecting in general, that's what my channel's about. So if that's something you enjoy, please consider subscribing in order to join the Knights of Mischief. We're now over 340, and I can't thank you guys enough. I really appreciate every single one of you that watches my videos and likes and subscribes and whatever. Any way you guys support the channel, I really truly appreciate you, especially if you've watched this far into this probably very long video. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. I would really appreciate that. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think of this wave, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.